Hey everyone, this is Peter, one of the hosts of Cobra Kai Kompanion, and this is interview number 12 with Rose Bianco, who plays Rosa Diaz, aka Yaya, Miguel's grandmother. This interview was from September 11th of 2018, before we started Cobra Kai Kompanion, and this is the interview.
Hi, this is Rose Bianco, and I am Yaya on Cobra Kai, la abuela de Miggy, tan lindo ese niño, y estoy hablando en el podcast TV Ate My Brain, bien, funny. Ahora voy a tomarme un poco de la mota. Adiós.
Hey, this is Tom, and you're listening to TV Ate My Brain, the Cobra Kai edition. With me, as always, is my co-host, Peter.
Hello, I am Peter, also host of Nostalgic.
Yes, and I am also the host of a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. And what have we got here today, Peter?
We have a very fun interview with one Rose Bianco, who played Yaya, aka, well, she's Rosa, I think she's Rosa, but we know her as Yaya. I don't even think she's ever called by her first name,
I don't
really.
think she is.
Yeah. So just a fun interview because she's done so much. And I was surprised myself to find out a lot of the work that she has done previously.
Absolutely. And what she's continuing to do. I mean, her career is really starting to take off.
Yeah. And you know what was cool is finding out that her son is a sort of podcaster as well.
Yes.
I think he's more of a YouTuber, if I'm not mistaken, but that's really cool. So she has a little bit of insight into what you and I do. So that was really nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, here it is.
Hello, Miss Bianco.
Hello.
Hi, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm having a great morning.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Tom, we got Miss Bianco on the call here.
Excellent. It's good to meet you, ma'am.
Hi. Nice to virtually sort of meet you as well.
And just to kind of throw out this little nugget, we just finished up with your on-screen daughter, Vanessa.
Cool. She told me. Yeah.
Oh, you guys saw?
Oh, wow.
Yes, there we go. That's amazing. Okay. That's really cool that you guys still communicate with each other.
Oh my gosh. Yes. She was great. You know, it helps to have good chemistry with the people you're working with, particularly the people who are supposed to be your family.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa's so down to earth and cool and just a great person, a really sweet person. That's why she comes across so kind like that, like the really great Earth Mother type, because she sort of is like that, even though she's gorgeous and a model and everything. She's really a sweet person. I'm so glad that I got to work with her.
Hey, it almost sounds like you sat in our conversation with her.
I know. Because, I mean, she had nothing but high praise for you.
Yeah.
That's nice. No, she told me yesterday. She said, "Hey, did you get contacted by TV Ate My Brain?" And I said, "Yeah. I reached out to the producer. I said, is this okay to do?" And he's like, "Definitely, go for it."
Oh, awesome. Was it Mr. Hurwitz by chance?
Yes.
Oh,
wow. That's the one who everyone keeps asking, and that's extremely cool because he's kind of been communicating with us as well behind the scenes, and that's super awesome. And
it's just been amazing how much encouragement we've been getting from everybody associated with this show, because I've been a podcaster for, 5 years, and I've reached out to a number of people in various industries, and I don't think I've ever had this much interaction with any one project before.
None at all. So we've been very blessed to have everybody say yes.
Yes, absolutely. That is the correct phrase. We are very blessed.
You sound like you're from the South. I live in the South. That's a thing to say that you're blessed.
I'm originally from the South, but I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Portland. I was from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Very South.
That's a nice town, yeah. I'm actually from up north. I'm from Chicago, but I've been living in Atlanta for quite a while.
Okay. Yeah. I live just north of Flint, Michigan. I like to say I live in the crossfire between Flint and Saginaw, but I do make frequent visits out to Chicago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I definitely want to get into some more of you as an actor or even a show person. I guess it seems like you've been doing things for a really long time. And on your website, I saw something about you as a go-go dancer. Is that something you can talk about?
Oh my God, yeah, that's funny. I did that a long time ago. I was with a theater group in San Francisco called Les Nicolettes, and it was an all-women's theater group that did really silly, campy stuff. So we all had like glitter on our eyes, and we wore, wigs and eyeliner, and it's very feminist. And so that was a really great group. It was a lot of empowerment, self-empowerment. It was great to work with women collaboratively without any kind of men around telling us what to do. This is like the early 80s. And then we went to New York to do a show, and I did a show for what's the name of it? It was like this big band orchestra that was performing at Danceteria, and Monica and I were the go-go dancers for them. Yeah, that was me back then when I was young. There's not much to say about that.
No. So what was that in New York?
That was in New York at Danceteria. That was a big place. That was I was only in New York during that time just for that show, so we were only there for a couple of months.
I see.
And it was very cool. I mean, we lived in a loft, all of us from the Nicolettes, and we were performing at the West Beth Theater, but then we performed at Danceteria. We performed at another place too. And it was a big underground. At that show, Madonna performed.
Oh, wow.
She was unknown. Yes. So it was very cool and underground.
When did you get into acting?
When I was 18 or 17, really. And I was going to go to law school or, pre-law at university. But then I discovered theater because a friend of mine was taking a theater games class, and I went with her. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is really what I want to do. So I ended up changing my major, and I started working at a theater nearby, at the Victory Gardens Theater, which is in Chicago still. And I got into a show there for about 7 months, and while I was in college. So that kind of cemented like my love of theater and acting. I was studying acting with Ted List. So I did a lot of all that studying. What a new actor does, which is they're taking acting classes, they're studying theater at school, they're doing shows. That was all my life for all that period.
Do you have a preference between stage and also behind the camera or on camera?
I don't do stage anymore. Well, first of all, I stopped acting for many years because I got married and had kids, and I was raising my kids. And and I did mostly theater at that time. I couldn't get traction in film and TV, but that takes up a whole lot of time, and I just needed to be a mom. I wasn't an at-home mom. I worked, but it was just too difficult to try and keep acting while raising my kids. So I only got back into the scene about 10 years ago. So since I've been back into acting in Atlanta, my husband got a job here, which is why we moved here. Mostly I do TV and film because I'm not like a well-known quantity for the Equity Theater here, which is like the union theater. And they pay and they have understudies for you and all that sort of thing. I'm not in Equity anymore. So doing the non-Equity shows, they don't. And then you have to say, sorry, I can't come because I've booked this television show, so I'm just going to have to miss this performance. So sorry. You can't do that, So I don't do much theater anymore.
You mentioned that you were studying law. I saw a clip of you playing like a Judge Diaz. I thought that was kind of cool because you end up playing like Yaya, whose last name is also Diaz.
Oh, well, Rodriguez, Diaz, Garcia, those are common Spanish names, common Spanish character names. Judge Diaz, that was a great role. That was on Star, and that was fun.
Yeah. I also saw that you were on Being Mary Jane. What was it like working with Gabrielle Union?
Amazing. Gabrielle it was in every single shot, essentially. So she was in high demand. So she was really kind of needed to preserve her energy in between shots all the time. But whenever we'd be in a scene, she'd come in, she'd be totally present and making jokes. One time I told her I had to speak in Spanish in that show also. And I was telling her, this line doesn't make any sense, and she said, let me see. She looked at it, and I wasn't going to say anything, it's like, I'm not going to say anything to the producers. But she looked at it, and she said, you're totally right. And she went to the director, hey, this line doesn't make any sense, could have changed it. So she was just so cool, I liked her, and she's very tall and thin and pretty. I felt like a troll next to her, but that's neither here nor there.
Now, this one, I'm very interested in hearing your story. In speaking with some of the cast members from the show, mainly, the kids and your on-screen grandson, who is a Marvel fan. Now, you had a experience there filming on Black Panther as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I worked on Black Panther. The scene did not come out in the movie. And then I waited for the DVD, and it's not in the cut scenes.
Oh, no.
Deleted scenes. So I was really sad about that. They did the scene where it was after, it would have been at the end of the movie, because it's when the Wakanda nation decides to share the amazing, what do you call that thing, that heals everything and they give everybody so much power. So they decide to share that with the world. So the Queen, Angela Bassett, comes to this South American town that had been reduced to rubble by some big giant earthquake, and there were all these sick people in the clinic. And I come out, and and I'm half blind, and there's like the spaceship comes down. We're like, what is that? And I come out, and she comes and grabs my hand and leads me to the makeshift like little clinic, and she starts to heal me with the stone. And the director, Ryan, was like directing Angela Bassett in the corner. It was just a beautiful thing. So I wish it had been in there, only because it would have been a ton of money. But they love me. I didn't get in there. So they decided to do the inner city shot at the very end of the movie instead. So
yeah. That's really awesome that you got to be, Angela Bassett is just an amazing actress, and Ryan Coogler's up and coming. And, at this point, in my opinion, at least, he hasn't had a bomb. Like, every movie has been great. Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, just amazing movies he's putting out. I guess the Black Panther phenomenon is just amazing. I did see Fruitvale Station a few years ago. I remember I saw that movie. I said, oh my God, this is a great movie. Sometimes you see a new thing and you realize how great it is. And that was that. I said, this guy is great. This Michael B. Jordan is great. The whole thing, it's so great to see people bursting out. It's exciting. I love talent. I love talented people, and I'm so happy when they have success. Yeah, absolutely. It looks like you were also in Downsizing. What was it like working with Matt Damon?
Again, I swear to God, I'm not lying. Amazing. Because he's such a superstar, of course, we did not chit-chat. I was on the set for 2 days, and I worked with him and Hong Chow in our scene, and I had to be dying, and kind of crying and dying and miserable. And he was, even in the shots where it was only like the camera was on me only, he stayed there. He acted with me, reacted with me. Everybody was such a pro. And at the end, after I was all done, I went to shake his hand to say, it was such a great honor to work with you. And he just gave me a big hug and said, come here, Rose, and gave me a big hug.
Oh, how cool.
You were great. And Hong Chow also, she's another great talent that, like a breakout, star from that. And at first she was a little bit more like, she didn't know who I was. Am I an extra or what was going on here? But then she's kind of warmed up to me as well. It feels good to prove myself, as an actor who has ability. And then people go, oh, hey, this lady's pretty cool. So I always feel good about that.
Yeah.
Well, just the chance to work with Alexander Payne, who's, quickly becoming one of my favorite directors. I would have such a thrill out of that.
Yes. When I saw that audition, I taped it. I had to tape the audition. And I taped it lying down. And the dialogue is so hilarious. And I was doing it really serious. So the person who was taping me said, and then I kind of cried at the end. And then after it was done, we did it twice. And she said, are you sure that's how you want to do it? This dialogue is super ridiculous. That's where Hong Chow in the background is talking about my husband's head exploded because of his fillings and this and that. So I said, I've seen every Alexander Payne movie. I'm telling you, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, very deadpan, dry humor. I love his stuff.
Yes. And then so he helped me get to Canada. They shot in Canada. I had to expedite my passport. He got his production coordinator to help me expedite my passport. And it was first class all the way. He was extremely focused. He's very good looking. Let's see. And at the end, he comes to me and he goes, it's so nice to have this time together.
That's amazing.
Super cool. Super cool. Yes.
Here's something, speaking of super cool, not too long ago, we interviewed Voss Sanchez, who played the convenience store clerk. Looks like you and him were both in the same episode of MacGyver.
I didn't actually work with him when I shot. I played the mother-in-law of the guest star, Diogo, I think it's Diogo Rivera. He played my son-in-law who gets trapped in a bank with a bunch of bank robbers. Anyway, so that was like my scenario. It was all about me and Diogo and the girl who played my daughter and MacGyver, and they came in and had dinner with us. Lucas Till, I think, the guy who plays MacGyver.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He's so young, and yet you can really see that he had a lot of influence. He and the director would talk about how the shot should go and stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting. You always learn stuff, but Lucas had a big say in how the scenes were going to go and all that. He and the director would talk about it. So anyway, I did not work with Voss, but Voss works for Frat Pack Productions, which is a taping service here in Atlanta, and he and I also worked in Blind Trust, which was a local indie.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's really cool.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, it seems like the community, like you guys kind of at least are connected in some way if you guys don't like directly know each other. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the impression I got from Voss, is that everybody at least is aware of each other and very, very supportive of one another.
This is true. Here, there is not a whole lot of cutthroatness. Certainly among actors, I can tell you who my competition is in town. I've been able to break out and get some roles. I shot a short in L.A. I got a guest star role in New York in a show called New Amsterdam. And so I'm starting to expand out of the Atlanta area. But that's just, my hustle and my manager and my agent. We all work to get my career, on a higher, upper level. And getting this Cobra Kai opportunity was tremendous because it's a hilarious role, and she's recurring on several episodes. It's all good for me, but everybody's very happy for me. There isn't a whole lot of cutthroat environment in Atlanta.
You mentioned that you had kind of taken a break from acting for several years to focus on being a mother. And first of all, I got to commend you for that. That's very, very admirable. Mm-hmm. But what was it that brought you back to the craft?
When you are an artist, I guess I hesitate to use that word because it's so fraught. But I could not really get away from it entirely. I wrote a few scripts. I wrote a short script that I did. I lived in New Orleans as well, and I performed in the Dramarama a couple of years. My husband and I, we adapted this children's book series, Clovis Crawfish. And it was like Clovis Crawfish is a total Louisiana Cajun thing. And we used to read all the Clovis Crawfish books to our kids all the time. We loved it. So we decided to do a stage play of it. And we performed it at the Louisiana Children's Museum. We got the permission from the writer, this like little old Cajun lady from, Cajun country. And she was so, I can't even do the accent. The Cajun accent is very interesting.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So I always did stuff, little stuff, because it's just hard to get it out of your system. After the kids were like 10 and 12, 13, 14, like that. So I didn't have to be constantly hovering around them. And I still had to go to all the softball games, all the football games, all that sort of thing. I was the secretary of the booster club for the football team and, all that mom stuff. But I still had not so much, like they didn't want me around all the time. So I started to do some plays here in Atlanta, and I submitted my picture to the agency that I was with, Houghton. I actually have changed agencies recently, but I had Houghton Talent for a really, really long time. They did really well by me. They called me in, this was 10 years ago, to audition for this movie with Jim Garner, and I booked it. It was the very first thing I auditioned for, so they were really happy to have me on board. So that's how I started. At that time, because at that time, my kids were in high school, I was able to kind of not, how can I say this, be so tied down to the mom duties. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that. There was not a whole lot of television and film back then, and only in the last 4 years has there been a whole lot of television and film coming into Atlanta. So I've been the beneficiary of being here at the right time. And, so now I've booked enough local credits that I'm gathering maybe more notice, on the coasts and that sort of thing. So I guess that explains, if you guys are young, eventually you'll know what I'm talking about. You just do what you have to do until your kids don't want you around anymore, and then you can do your own thing again.
I can't imagine them not wanting you around. You also help promote, one of their podcasts you mentioned, Co-Optimistic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. My son, Morgan Szymanski, he has a company called Blue Puma Studios, and one of the projects that he works on, he's a producer for a local consumer advocate type show, Trust Dale. That's his day job. He also does he'll write his own films and shorts and films them, and then he has this podcast called Co-Optimistic, which involves reviewing of games and board games and movies and pop culture in general.
Wow.
So he and his friends, they sit and they're they have the game behind them and they're playing it and they're commenting on it, and it is extremely silly. I don't quite follow it that well because I'm not into games at all, but it's actually pretty entertaining, and it's Co-Optimistic on YouTube. That's where they shoot it. So, of course, I'm going to promote him. I think he's hardworking, he's talented, and he's been doing it for years and years and years and years. His first movie was with the Lego movie set, Spielberg movie set on Lego. Oh. He made a movie when he was 12.
Oh, wow.
An animated film. So he's dedicated, and so I'm happy to help him. And my daughter just graduated with a photography degree, and I'm going to have her to take my pictures, and so she can get into headshot photography. It's a learning process. I do whatever I can because that's my number one job, actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And you must be proud of all the kids.
Oh, yes. And all right, Xolo Maridueña, who's the kid on Cobra Kai, he plays Miguel.
Yeah.
Again, I get so maternal and protective of the kids I work with if I feel like they're good kids, they're talented, but they're good, they're not full of themselves. I can tell you that Miguel is hilarious. He's like a typical 16-year-old. He actually works teaching Dungeons and Dragons in LA on the side, So, yes, I hope you get a chance to talk to him someday. He's a great kid, great kid, not spoiled. And he was on some sort of television show, I think Party of Five, for a long time. So he could be a spoiled kid, but he's not.
Interesting. Okay. I need to watch that show. I'll have to look into that.
Now, speaking of Dungeons and Dragons and your son's podcast, I'm looking at your website right now, and it says that, video games aren't your thing, but you love board games. I gotta ask, what's your favorite?
I think it's the Sherlock Holmes game. I think it's 221B Baker Street.
Okay.
When we were, when the family was all together all the time, we would always play that game. That's an old game.
I think I've played that game. My friend Jake's sister was really into board games, and I think she had that one.
It's a fun game. It's a little bit like that one about like the mystery where he killed the guy with the hammer in the library.
Yeah. I remember thinking it was like a more in-depth, complicated but fun version of Clue.
Yes, that's probably my favorite. And I think that was and life. We would play that as a family all the time.
Yeah, I really miss the heyday of board games just because it was one of those situations that you could break it out and you could play it as a family, you can play it as a group of friends, and it didn't feel as isolated as a lot of video games do, in my opinion.
Right.
It's in everybody's together, everybody's like laughing and yelling, and it's just engaging, and you're with people.
Absolutely.
That's that. I can't think of any others. Sometimes I play some other random game. Morgan is big on board games, so he will bring some if I have a party or something, and he'll get started with a game if there's enough people interested. But I have other things. I'm not that much into board games anymore right now. It's just I'm pretty busy.
Sure. Yes, you are. Absolutely. You got a bunch of stuff in kind of in post right now. Can you talk a little bit about your auditioning process? Did you also have to send in like a self-tape for your character of Rosa, a.k.a. Yaya?
Yes. When that came out, I was on the set of Godzilla. That's coming out next year. And it was they actually apparently were having a little bit of difficulty finding it, a person to play that role. And they auditioned a lot of people, including in L.A., and they had it on the open call. There's an open call type of thing here across the country called Actors Access. And you look at it sometimes. I look at it even though I get legitimate jobs through my agent, but I still look. You never know. And anyway, so they had this role, and I looked at the description, and I'm like, this is me. I got to play this. This is ridiculous. Why haven't I been asked to read for this? What the hell's going on? So I called my agent. I'm like, can you get me into audition for this? I don't submit through the free agent, through that free thing for a legitimate project like this, but I will immediately take it to my agent and say, I think I should be auditioning for this. What's going on? So they did. They eventually got me an audition, and here the initial process is you have to tape for auditions. In Atlanta, that's a very common thing. You tape. So I taped it. I submitted it. They gave me a note. I had to tape it again. And this time they said, she's not so, super sweet, saccharine sweet. She's got a little bite to her. Do it a little bit with a little bit more bite. And so I did it again. And then I think I didn't even have to read for the producers in person. I think they just booked me off the tape. But yeah, I finally did get to audition for that, and I was right. I love that role. It's so perfect for me. It's because I like doing comedy. I'm pretty good at comedy.
Honestly, it really shows in your performance. The timing that you displayed with this role was just stupendous. All the credit in the world to you. Thank you.
Yeah, most of the left out loud moments are with Yaya as well. I mean, I'm thinking too. I feel like it might have been the very first time we see your character. Is it when she's knocking on Miguel's door and he's kind of doing karate in his room, but you think he's jerking off?
Yes, that's my first appearance. It's a stellar first appearance.
It's so great. Now, when you were, cast and learning about Miguel kind of being like the new lead, what were your thoughts in terms of like having the lead kid being a person of color and just being a very diverse cast?
Because I'm a person of color, I guess you would say, even though I'm very white in my skin, but I'm Hispanic, and it's always frustrating. There are so few roles in general over the years, and they were always very, for me, the character always had to say a Latina teller or a Latina this, and then as I got older, I played a lot of housekeepers, and I'm like, housekeepers are real. My mom was a housekeeper at one time. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But I would like the people to be people, who speak in a normal way and whatnot. So, as the diverse community of actors are watching how Hollywood is responding to the call for diversity, we're so happy. And I'm sure that the audience is happy too, because they're being reflected more. The audience is comprised of all different kinds of people. So it was interesting that they went in this direction, that Cobra Kai, that the Karate Kid was pretty much all Caucasians essentially, and that they went in this direction, that it's like Miguel is, a South American, his heritage, and he is the lead, essentially, after Ralph and Billy, So it's exciting. It's exciting to see that happening, to tell you the truth. And I'm glad it's happening all over the place. I mean, I'm just happy. What can you say?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm Asian American myself, and I thought it was kind of cool to have a character like Kyler, even though he's a bully. I just thought that was kind of cool to have him play against type as well. So I really do like what the writers did with, the characters. And, like Carmen, she easily could have done some sort of housekeeping job, but she's like a nurse, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you think about it, how absurd. This is 2018. Of course, she's going to probably living in Los Angeles and paying for the rent on her own. She's got to have a decent job.
Right.
So it makes sense. And Kyler, what a great actor. I've never seen him before at all. This kind of launched him into the stratosphere, I'm sure, because he was so good in that role.
I had the opportunity to speak with Josa, who played that character, and he was in an indie movie called Spa Night, and I thought he did amazing there too. And I believe he won an award too, if I remember correctly, for that role. I think the casting, did an amazing job casting everybody in these great roles where a lot of the actors embody these characters, like you yourself, as Rosa, just an amazing character. Can you talk about, I don't know if the writers gave you any backstory, but can you talk about your relationship with Miguel as the grandmother?
Yes, we didn't really get backstory per se from the directors or the producers. It's like these are the characters that we've drawn, and it's the actor's job, in a way. You go back and see everything that's written about this character and kind of decide how it is. And just having my own Puerto Rican grandmother, you just kind of know what the relationship should be. And it's just, like very protective. I'll do anything for you. You want anything to eat, I'll cook it for you. I'll make everything special. I'll tell you, grandparents do tend to, I can't wait to be a grandparent myself. I hear that it's incredible, but that was my relationship with him. It was all, I'm supporting you in anything you do. You're adorable. You're my baby. You're so gorgeous. You're so smart. So that's how I feel about him. It's all like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to help him do whatever he needs to do. Now, there is the line about, I don't want to make his costume, but that's just because I'm salty. Yeah, it's not making him a costume anyway.
And it could be that you just want him to have a better costume that's not made, perhaps, maybe Just like, no, we'll just buy you one or something. That could be it too.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I'm just thinking like, no, what? Because also I'm talking to my daughter, like, don't be volunteering me for stuff.
Right.
So.
Like, you're better than that. We're not going to make you one. So, but yeah, that's a pretty funny scene when he does show up with a, with a made up costume. Kind of what you said about the grandparents, that's very much a thing. And that really comes off with your relationship with Miguel. So I do see that. My 6-year-old, he's actually the only grandson on his mom's side of the family. And that's very much how his grandparents are, kind of how your character is with Miguel. What was it like with Xolo? You spoke about like the things that he's into. How was he in terms of interactions with you?
Just Xolo and Rose on a personal level, he's very respectful, and he's inclusive. Like he would include me in conversations that he was having with maybe some pretty girl or something. He's just a nice boy. I don't know how else to explain. He's a nice boy. He was respectful to me. He was, nice to me. We didn't really have he's 16, so we don't have a whole lot in common, but he was just explaining to me where he lived and what he did. He had a part-time job sometimes when he wasn't shooting or anything. He would go and teach, adults are starting to want to learn Dungeons and Dragons because it's a thing now. And I just thought he was a very good boy, and I really appreciate that because there's a lot of disrespectful people, kids, and I just thought his mom did a great job with him. And that was just how my feeling was with him. We didn't really go out to dinner or anything like that, but it was a very good on-set relationship.
Yeah, that's nice. I really love the Diaz family dynamic. You're this loving grandmother, and even when you're kind of, I don't want to say not overstepping, but clearly Carmen, she is not supportive of the karate, but Yaya is. And I'm glad that there's no scenes where there's a disagreement between you and Carmen or anything like that. So I do like that. Now, with the very last scene, and at this point, Miguel's character, he's kind of turned a little bit, and I feel the audience is kind of like, oh gosh, he's kind of gone to the dark side. And then we see Yaya and Carmen, they're just rooting him on. What was that like for you? Like, did you, from like an audience member, I guess we're seeing that and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm supposed to like Miguel, but then you see Yaya and Carmen, you're like, oh, right. They're good people too. Like, I feel there's the audience is a little conflicted, like how we're supposed to feel in that moment.
That's really a deep comment. That's really a good thing to think about. I hadn't thought about it myself, but you're an audience member. This is what you felt. That's pretty cool. It's true. I don't know if you personally have anyone in your own family who gets in trouble or who maybe does the wrong thing sometimes. You know what? They're loved. Those are children. Those are people with family who care about them and who want them. And I feel like I could see that I think Yaya could see that he was doing some cheating stuff a little bit, below the belt, whatnot. But I honestly think she just said, hey, it's their world. I guess it's okay, If he's going to win this thing, he needs to do whatever he needs to do. I'm so glad he won. He's the best. He's so hardworking. I'm so glad he won. So I think they turn a blind eye a little bit. But thankfully, Carmen is a lot more realistic. She's out in this nasty LA world, and she's really trying to teach her son the right and narrow. So the straight and narrow, how to do the right thing. I think that's going to be a conflict. I haven't seen any of the scripts for season 2 yet, but I really think she's going to be saying, do the right thing. Do the right thing, Miggy. And for him, because he's a kid who rebels against his parents as usual, he might be doing that kind of rebelling and following his sensei. But there's always going to be, I think in the end, when he grows up, he's going to be okay. I'm glad that you see that there's that ameliorating presence of his family saying, hey, he's just a kid with a good family.
Yeah, people weren't able to see it, but when you were asking about that one family member, I was raising my hand, because I did get in a lot of trouble. Watching the show, I see a lot of myself in the Miguel character, so I was able to kind of relate. So I really do love that. What was it like working with Billy Zabka? Because your character is actually very fond of him.
Yeah, he's full disclosure, he's totally gorgeous. Oh my God, he's so cute.
Those baby blues.
Yeah, really, he's good looking for, I don't know, I guess he's in the mid-50s or something. He's very good looking. He's really humble. He's real quiet, and he really listens to the director, and he'll like a total pro. He'll do something 17 times exactly right, exactly right, exactly right. He's really a good actor. So I don't have too much personal relationship with him. I just worked with him, but I was very, like in awe of his professionalism. I kind of learned a little bit watching him, to tell you the truth. And I always learn a little bit from the people I'm working with. It's always a learning process because I've always had like day player roles and supporting roles. So unless you are supporting a film in some way, you have so much responsibility. You're always on set. You're always in all the shots, that sort of thing. That's how you get the really good experience of what it takes. So people in my position are always learning and watching. He's just a total pro. He's a nice guy. He's kind of quiet and humble. So that's all I can say about him.
I would like to see in season 2 a moment where Yaya just might have smoked a little bit too much of that medicinal marijuana and slaps Sensei Lawrence on the backside. I'd like to see a little something like that.
No, I don't think so, because I think she wants him to hook up with her daughter.
Oh, good point.
That's what I think.
Fair enough.
Yes. Let's be real here. This is like a beautiful thing happening. I'm like, oh my God, this has got to happen. This has got to happen.
Now, speaking of her daughter, Vanessa Rubio had nothing but the warmest, kindest things to say about the time that she spent with you. And I was just kind of wondering what it was like from your point of view, as far as your time together.
When you are not that well known and you're in this show, spending lots of hours on lots of days with super famous, Ralph Macchio, super famous, and Billy Zabka is just like an icon. Xolo Maridueña is, I guess he's well known in his circles because he was a regular on a television show for many years. So they have a lot of, they're real comfortable in that kind of, leading type position. So the supporting actors, they kind of hang out together and watch and learn. And it's a constant, kind of watch and learn type of thing all the time, because there's always things to learn and, set etiquette and whatnot. So Vanessa and I hung out together all the time. She lives in New York, and she was telling me about where she was like between apartments. And I told her my daughter was thinking about moving to New York, and she was giving me advice about where good places to live and things like that. And she was in a Buick commercial. She had to leave on last day of shooting. It was like we had to hurry up and shoot all her scenes because there was a snowstorm in Atlanta, and she had to go and do this commercial in L.A. And that was the Buick commercial, which I'm sure you've seen because it was everywhere for a while. Yes. Like, thank God, Vanessa, that was awesome. I'm real happy for her. She's kind of like my other daughter now. That's how I feel about her. I just like her. She's a great girl.
Yeah, when she was talking about you, she said that she just looked at you and she's like, yeah, I could totally see her as my mom.
She did.
Yes. That was the relationship we had, I think.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Now, with Yaya's character being such a comedic relief, I feel, and she has a lot of great lines, was there a moment that they had you do like multiple takes, trying different lines just to see what was the best one?
Yeah, there was. First, they would shoot the scene the way that I interpreted it, and then the director would maybe make it say, "Why don't you try this?" And then a different direction on it, and then they'd shoot that a few times. The whole medical marijuana thing, we talked about all kinds of ways to say it, to tell you the truth. That was pretty funny. And also because there's different vernacular for marijuana. There's Puerto Rican, Mexican, Ecuadorian, Venezuelan. We're asking the extras on this, how would you say it? How would you say it?
Oh, wow.
How would you say joint?
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a democratic conversation about that. It was a very silly line. I love it. I love it because it's all of a sudden, oh my God, Yaya, you're so hilarious.
I think that moment for me when she says that, I go, you know what? Why am I not surprised? Just, not to say that like exactly. She looks like somebody that would smoke a joint, but I go, you know what? I can see that. Of course, Yaya would smoke.
I bet she was a leftist back in Ecuador, when she was young. Totally.
Sure.
So it's like any show, not just this show. Any show, you come in as an actor with your interpretation and you do it. And since I have, I'm reasonably competent, they'll like, it's a good take. It's a good interpretation. We do it. Sometimes they'll say, why don't you try this? And then we try it this other way. And then they look at it in post and decide which is the best way. That's generally how it works.
What about the moment when you guys are having, I'm not sure if it was lunch or dinner, but, the whole masturbation joke comes back again and you say you don't want to know. Was that pretty much the way it was written on page, or was there different takes of that as well?
No, that was the script. The script said that you don't want to know. And I pretty much nailed it. It was like, that is what it is. It is what it is, right?
Pretty straightforward line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with your character speaking, actually, I think mainly Spanish. I don't know if you had any dialogue in English at all, but was there any difficulty like finding, like improving with like the writers or anything like that? Because do they speak Spanish? Is there a Spanish script doctor or anything like that to help them work your lines?
No, the producers write the scripts, and they wrote in English what they wanted it to say. And then sometimes the script would have the Spanish words and sometimes it wouldn't. And sometimes what was written sounded like it came out of, the Spanish-English dictionary online. I'd be like, I wouldn't say it this way. I would say it this way. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then Shola's mother, sometimes I would go to her and say, how would you say this? And because I am bilingual, but I'm definitely from here. Like, I'm American. I do play a lot of Spanish characters. The way I look at it is, my mom and I had, and the kids had this kind of relationship, which is she would talk in Spanish and we would talk in English. That's so common. So common. So Yaya knows English, of course. And if she had to go to the store, she'd, of course, have to speak in English. But at the house, she probably is not that good at it. And I've discovered a lot of people, Spanish people here, who come from other countries. They're kind of very insular and they stay speaking Spanish all the time. But they live here. Yaya's not a dummy. She, of course, understands English perfectly.
Right.
So that's the relationship we have in that respect. The Spanish dialogue, sometimes I would say to the director, I think if it was written in Spanish in the script, I would say, I don't know about this. And I talked to Shola's mother and we thought maybe this would be better. And the director would say, okay, sounds good to me. They were good with that.
Now, what would you like to see happen with your character in season 2?
Dude, I had not thought about that. I'd like to speak a little bit of English. That would be nice. And honestly, I feel like her role is to support her daughter and her grandson. She's not out there working. She doesn't need to be out in the world working a job. She probably, might make tamales and sell them or something like that. I bet she does something like that. But I don't see a different trajectory for her. I see her role as supportive for her family. And I don't know. I guess maybe the producers might have different ideas, which would be kind of fun and exciting. I'll just have to see. but I don't really see anything different.
I really do love the idea of Yaya trying to speak some English, and I feel like this might be a trope, but it could be a thing where like Yaya just misuses a word, and then you have that lost in translation, comedy going on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be amazing.
I was almost thinking it'd be almost like a Silent Bob moment where she just says the only thing she says is exactly what needs to be said at that moment.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah, I love that. That makes total sense, too. Because she's also sort of like the chorus, the Greek chorus in the background sometimes.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Tom, that's a great idea. I'm thinking back to like, Dave Chappelle, his show where he did Lil Jon, and Lil Jon has his catchphrases that he'd always yell out in the rap songs. But then when asked, an actual question, he will speak like, he'd been educated at Harvard or something like that. So that'd be kind of funny too. Like this entire time she's been speaking Spanish and everyone's a little like, oh, she doesn't understand English. But then when she speaks it, you're like, oh my God, she's an educated English speaking person.
Might be kind of funny. I don't see that actually.
I see wisdom more than anything.
There you go.
Wisdom and sage advice.
I like that.
Yes, I think she's been around. Yaya's been around. I think she's definitely had a life and a history. I don't know if she's Harvard English, but
no.
and obviously she knows English. They're talking and she's like responding. I don't know about that in Spanish.
Right. Or at least the medicinal marijuana makes her speak that way, perhaps. That must be some good stuff.
Ah, yes. Yes, all that wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Man, I'm terrible personally at marijuana. I can't stand it. I just have to act that part.
Yeah. Earlier, you kind of, mentioned Godzilla. You were filming that and New Amsterdam. Could you talk a little bit about those projects and what else listeners can expect to see you in the near future?
Let's see. I have a few things in post-production right now. I'm going to be on an episode of The Gifted in September.
Oh, wow.
But it's a really small role, though. And then I'm going to be in a movie called Fonzo, which is about Al Capone.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, that's the one with Tom Hardy. Yeah, excellent.
Yes, and I play his mother. I play Alphonse Capone's mother. I had to only speak in Italian. I had to only speak in Italian in that movie. It was awesome, and I was like the funniest person on the set because it was kind of a deep film noir type of movie. But they had this mom. They called her Nana. She was always running around yelling in Italian. She was pretty funny. It was like a tremendous role. I'm so excited about that. I don't know when that's coming out.
I mean, talk about another handsome man there. What was it like working with Tom Hardy?
He is such a superstar. Of course, he was always kind of with his assistant and with the director all the time and the producers generally. I think he might have been one of the producers, but from time to time he'd be, of course, on the set and we're all standing around waiting for the lighting to be corrected. And he was making jokes all the time. And with Linda Cardellini plays his wife. And, he was just always making jokes. So he would be standing there with her going, and she'd just be laughing her head off. One time he and Gino, who plays his bodyguard, and Al, who plays his brother, and Linda, they were talking about something, and I asked the question, and he was just like, come here. We're talking about such and such. So he's super inclusive, when he's not being all a superstar in his room. But very funny. And he kind of stayed with his Brooklyn accent as much as possible so that he wouldn't lose it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about him. He's just a nice guy, really nice guy. And very talented. And he loves to bury himself in these roles where he's identifiable practically. It's very strange. So that's going to be coming out soon, I hope. Josh Tranq is the director of that. Then Godzilla is coming out in the spring of 2019. I had a lot of weeks of work on that. I work with O'Shea Jackson Jr. a lot. He is Ice Cube's son.
Yeah.
He saves me in this one scene. He had to pick me up. It was awesome.
I remembered when he came out with Straight Outta Compton, they were calling him Obey Jackson instead of O'Shea.
Obey?
Like Bay,
Why?
B-A-E. That's that slang, the kids use.
Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, it was like Obey Jackson. Am I right? Because they were saying that he was really handsome. So, yeah, I thought he was very good in Straight Outta Compton playing his father. I mean, he was around his father his entire life. So,
yeah. Well, he was talking to me about. By the way, speaking of Obey, okay, I texted to my daughter. I said, "Oh, I'm working with O'Shea Jackson," and she texted me back, "Oh, he's cute." I was like, "Oh, is he? Okay, he's another one." It's kind of like, okay, these young people, it's just not, I don't really see it necessarily. It's like, oh, he's a handsome boy, of course. But he was funny. He was always making jokes, by the way. Always making, sometimes these guys, some people are more quiet, some people are always making jokes. O'Shea is like that, and kept it light, kept it entertaining on these long shoots and the green screen and the really long days. He's a great guy. And he was telling me that he actually had to audition to play his father.
right.
Like a few times. He goes, "Oh, this is not a dunk, a slam dunk at all. I had to audition for it more than once, and they had to think about it. And my dad was like, if you're going to do this, you got to do this serious, I'm telling you." So he's a nice kid, too. Let me tell you, meeting these like Hollywood archetypes, you're going, oh, they're just people like me. They really are.
You mentioned Josh Tranq. What was it like working with him as a director?
He was great. He's like high energy and super focused, and also funny, kept it light, because the Al Capone movie is a little bit dark. It's a dark story. So he kind of was always like really approachable, really making jokes. He gave me a big hug at the end, and like so happy that he goes, "You were so authentic. Thank you so much." He's an intense guy, but very focused and kept it light on set, so everybody was always comfortable. It comes from the top.
Right.
If the top is a little bit uptight and everybody's all freaked out about whatever, serious, important things going on up in the stratosphere, where there are like multi-million dollar things going on that you don't know anything about. So sometimes it comes down. It's a very uptight set. It was not at all. Him and Dutch, the first AD, kept it happy. People were in good mood all the time. He's a great guy. And I wanted to talk about New Amsterdam, because that's coming on September 25th. And I have a really good role in there. I will tell you that when I first come out, they think I'm dead because I'm in rigor mortis. So, but then anyway, it's a really great role.
No, for those that don't know, what is that show about?
It's a brand new show. It's the pilot on September 25th. I think it's NBC. I'm not 100% sure. I should know this, but it comes on right after This Is Us. And Ryan Eggold plays a new head surgeon on the staff, and he's kind of shaking things up. So it's a hospital show, but Jacko Sims plays a doctor. He has a big Twitter presence. And he was on The Last Ship. So there's some identifiable people in the show. It's really great stories. The first episode, I'm not a regular, but I'm one of the stories. On the first episode, there's like the one story about the Haitian kid with AIDS. It's my story, and then there's like another story. So those three stories kind of drive the main story of the new doctor who's in charge, who's shaking things up and shaking up the establishment. So that's what it's about.
And that concludes our interview with Rose. I just want to say, well, first of all, I gotta say, I'm sorry because there was a lot of background noise on my end, so I had to kind of mute my microphone. And at one point, I'm kind of feeding Peter some lines over text messaging. I do apologize to Rose. I apologize to the listeners as well. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with us.
Yeah, she was just, I can't thank her enough for coming on, giving her insights and stuff like that. So we definitely hope to see her a lot more, some interactions in season 2, kind of as we discussed. But, to kind of throw it out, we have some breaking news if you guys haven't heard yet already. We are starting our own feed, for the Cobra Kai coverage. Now, if you already subscribed to TV My Brain.
Yep, nothing's going to change as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, episode reviews, they're all still going to be there. But if you are a hardcore fan of Cobra Kai and you want the fix, if this is a drug for you, we have the remedy. We're going to be starting our own feed called Cobra Kai Kompanion with a K, and we're going to be putting up content, or bonus contents rather. We're going to do some... I don't want to tease them because I don't want people to kind of steal our idea while we're kind of teasing this new feed. But basically, we're going to do games. We're going to do movie reviews where the cast members have been in, stuff like that. So anything Cobra Kai related, we're going to try to create these bonus contents for you. So that way you're getting that constant fix. So we don't have a date of launch yet, but if you follow us on Instagram or Twitter, those are still going to be the same. Instagram at Cobra Kai Podcast, Twitter at Cobra Kai Pod. So just, if you join the group, we're going to keep everybody updated. Okay. The group is www.cobrakai.TV A&B group. You spell out the words period. And if you follow or join the group, you'll get updates in real time. So we got a logo going. We're going to be starting the feed, but again, if you join the group, you'll find out exactly when we'll launch, and we'll share a link that you can go to. Otherwise, you just have to keep searching Cobra Kai Kompanion for the next few weeks, I suppose.
And I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up this week. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at The Drunken Dork. You can find me on Facebook at our show page called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. And you can listen to me every week on my show, Jake and Tom Conquer the World. Peter, what about you?
And for me, you can find me at Paulstalgic on Twitter or Instagram. I do host a movie review podcast. Tom has joined me for the Karate Kid movies. I've done some new releases, but mostly older stuff too, stuff from the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, stuff like that. So if you can think of it, I may have done it. Over 200 episodes at this point. So thank you guys for your continued support, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.